Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome. So in the present video, we are going to look at the erythropoiesis and factors promoting erythropoiesis. And please don't forget to subscribe and join to my YouTube community. Introduction. Erythropoiesis is the process of producing red blood cells, that is erythrocyte in the body. So the process in which the red blood cells are produced in our body is called erythropoiesis. And this erythropoiesis is primarily occur in the bone marrow of adults and in the spleen during fetal development. So in fetal or in the fetus, the erythropoiesis is known to take place in the spleen, while for the adult it takes place in the uh, bone marrow. So this process is vital for maintaining adequate oxygen transport throughout the body. So remember, the major functions of the erythrocyte in our body, that is red blood cells, is to transport oxygen. So therefore, the process of this erythropoiesis is very important in maintaining the adequate supply of oxygen and transportation throughout the body. And this is briefly how erythropoiesis takes place. It started from pro-erythroblasts, then from there to basophil erythroblasts, and from there the basophil erythroblasts will be converted into polychromatophil erythroblasts, which then converted into autochromatic erythroblasts. Then the next one is reticulocyte, that is the immature red blood cells, and finally erythrocyte. So these are actually the basic step of erythropoiesis, and we'll look at it in details in the video. So now, what are the overview of red blood cells development? So erythropoiesis begins with the differentiation of hematopoietic stem cells into erythroids progenitors. So first, we have stem cells. And stem cells are the cells that have the potential to differentiate into different cell types. So erythropoiesis, it begins with the differentiation of hematopoietic stem cells. So meaning that erythrocyte is generated or is produced or is specialized and differentiate from hematopoietic stem cells. So the hematopoietic stem cells first differentiate into erythroid progenitors, and then these progenitors will mature through several stages, and these stages include proerythroblasts, and then from erythroblasts it will further mature into erythroblasts, and then finally to reticulocytes. So you see, first it started from hematopoietic stem cells, then into erythroid progenitors, and then from erythroid progenitors it will further develop into proerythroblasts, and then to erythroblast, and finally to reticulocyte, which is immature red blood cells. So the fully matured erythrocytes are released into the bloodstream to perform their oxygen carrying function. So as you can see, the bio or the erythropoiesis, that is the formation and the life cycles of the red blood cells, is started from hematoblast, that is hematopoietic stem cells, then from there to erythroblast, then early erythroblast, late erythroblast, and then normoblasts, then reticulocyte, and lastly the erythrocyte. So these are the steps that improve the erythropoiesis, that is the synthesis or the formation of the red blood cell. So the next thing is the erythropoiesis process in details. So the process involves cell division. So it started with cell division, and then there is also hemoglobin synthesis, and then eventual enucleation of erythroblast. So the first thing that happened in erythropoiesis, it started with the cellular division, that is the division of the cell. And then the next one is also the synthesis of hemoglobin. So how is this happen? How is this happen? When you have the cell will first divide and after the division, and then hemoglobin will be synthesized, and then eventually the enucleation of erythroblast, meaning that the removal of the nucleus. So from here, as erythrocytes mature, they lose their nucleus and organelles. So all the organelles and the nucleus will be lost through the enucleation. And therefore, the process will maximize the hemoglobin content. Because what makes the red blood cells to be responsible for the transport of oxygen is the presence of hemoglobin. So that is why all the organelles and the nucleus will be lost in the erythroblast cells. And then it will now maximize the synthesis and the generation of the hemoglobin. So the entire cycle from stem cell to mature red blood cells, it takes approximately 7 days. So the generation of the red blood cells from the hematopoietic stem cells to mature red blood cells, it takes approximately 7 days. So this is how it is. So it started from erythroblasts, basophilic erythroblasts to chromatic erythroblasts, erythroblasts, and then lastly reticulocyte, and then the reticulocyte will be matured, and then the matured reticulocyte is called erythrocyte. That is the matured red blood cell. So what are the key factors promoting erythropoiesis? So erythropoietin, EPO, is a hormone produced mainly by the kidneys and is primarily stimulator of erythropoiesis. So the first thing that actually, or the major promoting factors that accelerate erythropoiesis is erythropoietin. It's a major hormone that is produced in the kidney, and it is the primary stimulator of erythropoiesis. Adequate iron, vitamin B12, and folic acid levels are essential nutrients supporting red blood cell synthesis. So it means that apart from erythropoietin, iron, vitamin B12, and folic acid levels, they are very important in stimulating and supporting red blood cell synthesis. So proper bone marrow health and sufficient erythroid progenitor cell populations are also necessary for effective erythropoiesis. So you see, erythropoietin, iron, vitamin B12, and folic acid, they are very important stimulators of erythropoiesis. And also proper bone marrow health. If the bone marrow is properly healthy, and then there is a sufficient erythroid progenitor cells population, so these actually are very necessary for effective erythropoiesis. So if there is no sufficient erythroid progenitor cells and the bone marrow is not healthy, it means that there will be a problem with erythropoiesis. So as we can see from here, the kidney is responsible for producing erythropoietin. So see erythropoietin level, when erythropoietin level is increases, so as you can see, it will stimulate hematopoietic stem cells to synthesize the new red blood cells. And as a result of that, there will be a tissue oxygenation. So factors, what are the factors that decrease oxygenation? That is addition of oxygen to the red blood cells and then transport it to different tissues. So those factors include low blood volume. So if there is a low blood volume, anemia, low hemoglobin content in the red blood cells, poor blood flow, and pulmonary diseases. These are the factors that decrease oxygenation of the red blood cell. And erythropoietin is very important in increasing or in stimulating erythropoiesis, and this will subsequently lead to the synthesis and the generation of a lot of the red blood cells, and as a result of that, there will be an increase in oxygen transportation in the body system. So I think as you can see, the promoting factor is kidney, and when there is, of course, the factors that decrease oxygenation, when there is a low blood volume, anemia, low hemoglobin, poor blood flow, as well as pulmonary disease are associated with decrease in tissue oxygenation. So then, the next thing is, what are the role of erythropoietin? Erythropoietin EPO is released in response to hypoxia or low oxygen levels in tissues. So whenever there is low oxygen, that is hypoxia, there will be an increase or there will be an activation to release erythropoietin. And this erythropoietin, it binds to receptors on erythroid progenitors, thereby promoting their survival, proliferation, and differentiation. So you see, when there is a low oxygen, that is hypoxia, erythropoietin will be released, and the erythropoietin will bind to the receptors on erythroid progenitors, and as a result of that, it will now promote the survival, proliferation, and then the differentiation of the hematopoietic stem cell. So recombinant erythropoietin is used clinically to treat anemia, especially in chronic kidney disease patients. So you can recombinantly synthesize this erythropoietin, which will subsequently use to treat anemia and other chronic kidney disease patients. So now, what are the factors affecting erythropoiesis? So iron deficiency impairs hemoglobin synthesis. Therefore, this leads to anemia and decreased red blood cells production. So chronic disease and inflammation can inhibit erythropoiesis through cytokine-mediated pathways. Nutritional deficiencies, bone marrow disorders, and hormonal imbalance can also negatively influence erythropoiesis. So you see, at this point, we are trying to look at the factors that are affecting erythropoiesis, that is the formation of the red blood cell. And of course, if there is iron deficiency, it means that there will be a problem with hemoglobin synthesis. Therefore, there will be no available hemoglobin that will be used in generating enough red blood cells. So therefore, that will lead to anemia, and then there will be a decrease in red blood cells production. And then a chronic disease and inflammation can also inhibit erythropoiesis. Nutritional deficiencies, bone marrow disorders, and hormonal imbalances can also, or as also another factors that can negatively affect erythropoiesis. This is the erythropoietin, which is very important stimulator of uh, the synthesis of red blood cells. So in summary and clinical relevance, erythropoiesis is a tightly regulated process crucial for oxygen delivery and overall hemostasis. So understanding the factors promoting or inhibiting erythropoiesis aids in diagnosing and managing various anemia. So advances in therapies such as recombinant erythropoietin improve outcomes in patients with deficient red blood cells production. So ladies and gentlemen, please don't forget to subscribe and join to my YouTube community, and see you in the next video.